A grand jury rejecting a criminal charge is said to be as rare as a lightning strike. Well, a bolt of lightning incinerated what was going to be the heart of the case against former FBI Director James Comey, the case that Donald Trump ordered against him after every other prosecutor but his personal attorney turned the case down. And the more that we learn about the grand jury proceedings in Comey's case, the worse that it looks for Trump, and the more that it stinks. I'm Adam Klasfeld, and you're watching All Rise News here on Legal AF on the Midas Touch Network. And you know the backstory, but I'm going to run through it quickly. First, Donald Trump forced the resignation of conservative former U.S. Attorney Eric Siebert, who was a hand-picked U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, until Eric Siebert concluded that the cases against Donald Trump's political enemies, Letitia James and James Comey, were not fit to be brought to a grand jury. He refused to bring the case, therefore he was gone. So Trump installed his former personal attorney and an insurance lawyer named Lindsay Halligan. She overrode the recommendations of career prosecutors who said there was no case against James Comey. But MAGA loyalists insist the case against James Comey is okay because a grand jury brought it forward. We're going to go deep into that claim today, but first let's start with a clip of Trump's AG, Pam Bondi, making that very argument.
The law. No one is above the law, and you will be held accountable. And, a very liberal grand jury in one of the most liberal jurisdictions in the country just indicted James Comey. Now, we know, of course, we have to go to trial. We'll have a great trial team, and everyone, of course, is innocent until proven guilty. However, we are going to trial in this case, and this is just the beginning.
Pam, you're talking about a change in culture.
Now, as you can see in the video, Bondi is bragging that a grand jury, she calls it a liberal grand jury, brought the case forward against James Comey, that it was such a tough lift, but the liberal grand jury brought forward two of the charges. Now, that is ridiculous and it's borderline pathetic. First of all, it is extremely rare for a grand jury to reject any charge. Here's a staunchly conservative former prosecutor, Andrew McCarthy, describing how rare it is in the National Review. Quote, when a grand jury declines to vote an indictment, that's called a no true bill. In a prosecutor's office in which the new lawyers are trained well, no true bills should be rarer than lightning strikes. In my nearly 20 years as an assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, I can count on one hand the number of no true bills I remember hearing about and still have a finger or two left over, end quote. And in my conversations with former federal prosecutors, none of them have heard of it happening. It happened at what was going to be the heart of the James Comey case. We're going to return to that later. But there was another thing that Bondi said, characterizing the grand jury as a liberal grand jury. Now, let's be clear. Pam Bondi has no idea that the grand jury is liberal, conservative, mixed, or somewhere in between. The Eastern District of Virginia is broadly a Democratic-leaning district, but it's made up of counties that are liberal-leaning, there are counties that are conservative-leaning, and it's drawn randomly from people in that area who might come from many different political backgrounds. And even in a world where Pam Bondi knows the political composition of the grand jury, she's not allowed to say it because of grand jury secrecy. So that's that clip. But here's another reason why that clip is so ridiculous. Everything we've learned about the grand jury shows that everything that went down is nothing to brag about. Let's talk about the grand jury system. Grand jurors take time out of their lives. They take an oath, and they take their oath seriously to be a check on power. But the threshold to bring a case forward is very low. A majority of the panel, not unanimous, a majority of the panel needs to vote on whether a charge is justified on the low threshold of probable cause. And from the reporting we're learning, the Trump administration almost didn't have it. First, let's go into the charge that they rejected. The charge that the grand jury rejected against James Comey was a false statements count accusing him of lying by denying that he knew of any plan by Hillary Clinton to disparage Donald Trump in connection with the Russian government's attack on the 2016 presidential election. That was a charge predicated on this idea about what the GOP calls a Russiagate. That is, Russia's very real attack on US democracy that year was illegitimate and a conspiracy to harm him. The grand jury looked at that charge and threw it out. They said that it stinks. So that was going to be count one. And count one is usually where prosecutors put their strongest charge. But they brought forward two weaker charges. And here's what we're learning about the grand jury proceedings for those two charges. One, the only prosecutor in the room was a rookie, Lindsay Halligan, the former insurance lawyer we spoke about earlier. And here's what CBS News is reporting from the transcript they obtained. Quote, according to a transcript of the proceedings obtained by CBS News, Judge Valla asked the newly named interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan, a former Trump personal lawyer, why there were two versions of the indictment. A majority of the grand jury that reviewed the Comey matter voted not to charge him with one of the three counts presented by prosecutors, according to a form that was signed by the grand jury's foreperson and filed in court. He was indicted on two other counts, making false statements to Congress and obstructing a congressional proceeding, after 14 of 23 jurors voted in favor of them, the foreperson told the judge, end quote. Let's stop there for a second. 14 of 23 jurors. Barely a majority. Prosecutors barely got a majority of grand jurors to vote for an indictment under the low threshold of probable cause. And they believe that they can convict James Comey of those two counts unanimously beyond a reasonable doubt. That's one giant red flag. And then there's the rest of that transcript, because Lindsay Halligan, as that passage shows, presented two documents to the judge. And the judge is absolutely confused by the signatures on it. She doesn't know what to make of these documents. And the rest of the reporting by CBS reads like something out of an Abbott and Costello routine. Here it is. And excuse me, I'm going to read it at length because it's absolutely incredible. Quote, but the two versions of the indictment were published on the case docket, one with the dropped third count, one without. The transcript reveals why this occurred. Quote, so this never happened before. I've been handed two documents that are in the Mr. Comey case that are inconsistent with one another, Judge Valla said to Halligan. There seems to be a discrepancy. They're both signed by the grand jury foreperson. And she noted that one document did not clearly indicate what the grand jury decided. Quote, that the one that says it's a failure to concur in an indictment, it doesn't say with respect to one count, Valla said. It looks like they failed to concur across all three counts. So I'm a little confused as to why I was handed two things in the same case number that are inconsistent. Halligan initially responded that she hadn't seen that version of the indictment. Quote, so I only reviewed the one with the two counts that our office redrafted when we found out about the other two counts that were true billed, and I signed that one. I did not see the other one. I don't know where that came from, Halligan told the judge. Judge Valla responded, you didn't see it? And Halligan again told her, I didn't see that one. Valla seemed surprised. So your office didn't prepare the indictment that day? Halligan then responded, no. I prepared three counts. I only signed the two count indictment. I don't know which of the three counts you have in your hands. Okay, it has your signature on it, Valla told Halligan, who responded, okay, well, end quote. Okay, well. And that was Lindsay Halligan's maiden voyage into criminally prosecuting someone. and just scraping by with a confusing grand jury indictment that has been roasted across a political spectrum, including in the Conservative National Review, by a former federal prosecutor who says that he's never seen anything like it. Trump loyalists are saying, even though Trump ordered the prosecution of his longtime enemy, it's somehow legitimate because of this grand jury process. What the transcripts actually reveal is a rookie prosecutor out of her depth, all alone in a grand jury room in a case nobody else would take. I'm Adam Klasfeld. You've been watching All Rise News here on Legal AF on the Midas Touch Network. And if you want journalism that delves deeper and shows you what's really going on beyond the broad outlines, visit www.allrisenews.com. That's www.allrisenews.com. I'm a fully independent journalist, and your support means the world to me. It allows me to do what I do. So you can become a free subscriber, and if you can afford to become a paid subscriber, you'll unlock the full coverage and support the work that I do. And if you want to see other videos like these, hit subscribe now, and you'll get an alert next time we're on the air.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.